Okay, so I'm talking about uncovering your limiting beliefs. And I want you to ask yourself this question. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Like, what happens when you think about being able to be successful and do and create anything out there? Because it's what happens when you think about that and the next few moments after it that is going to show you exactly where your limiting beliefs live. So, what is a limiting belief for those of you who may not be aware? A limiting belief is a thought that you have repeated so often that it actually feels like truth. It gets mistaken and taken as fact. So, that belief becomes limiting when it stops us from moving forward in the life that we want. And where do these limiting beliefs come from? They come from childhood conditioning, from past failures and disappointments, from family and cultural messaging that may have been passed down from generation to generation, and also from trauma and responses that we take on to protect ourselves from whatever's going on in our life. And so when we think about limiting beliefs, they have served us up into a point. They were once protective and they helped us survive. But now, if you're watching this, it's likely that your limiting beliefs are holding you back. And so, what can we do from here? The thing is, it's about making sense of what are your limiting beliefs, because when we can become honest and truthful and shine the light on those beliefs, only then is change possible. So, some of the common categories that limiting beliefs fall under is worthiness, capability, safety, belonging, money, love. And you might have these statements like, I'm not enough, or I'm not smart, skilled enough, I'm not safe to be seen, I don't fit in, I don't deserve wealth, I'm too much, I'm not enough. All of these words are limiting beliefs. And so, how do you spot them? It's about paying attention, becoming consciously aware of the language you're using. For instance, anything that starts with I can't, anything that starts with I'm not or I don't. These are belief statements. Very rarely are they facts. And so when you pay attention to your language, you may be surprised at how often these words are being spoken out loud or these thoughts are in your head. And so what we want to look at is following where our resistance is and doing an audit of, where do we procrastinate in life specifically? Where do we potentially self-sabotage ourselves? Where do you avoid or make mistakes? These are not make mistakes, sorry, make excuses. These are the points in our lives that our limiting beliefs are living. And so, this part, when you imagine a bigger life, that whole thought from the beginning of, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? If you imagine that bigger life, more money, more success, more love, what you want to pay attention to is what is the thought that immediately pushes back at you? As you know, that's not possible for all these reasons. Those thoughts, they are your limiting belief. That's what you want to have a look at. So, another way that we can have a look and discover our limiting beliefs on our own is asking ourselves these questions and then reflecting on them. What situations make you shrink? When do you feel not enough? When do you react instead of respond? So, when do you get defensive? When do you get protective? These triggers are the signposts to our beliefs. It's almost like it's telling us exactly what our beliefs are. It's just about whether or not we're willing to become conscious to it. So, an exercise that you can do is you can write down 3 areas of life where you feel stuck. And underneath each one of those, I want you to write the belief that might keep you there, that might be keeping you stuck. For example, if it's money or finance, you might have the belief that you have to work hard to earn money. And so you're wondering why no matter what you do, no matter how hard you work, you never have enough of it. So these beliefs are keeping us stuck or feeling lost in our lives. So this is a really good exercise you can do on your own to really start to unpack and become conscious to what's been holding you back. And so where do our beliefs hide? They hide in our standards. They hide in what we compare and judge. They hide in the stories that we tell ourselves and tell others, and also in our body. So you may have heard about the standards you walk past are the standards you accept. In our standards, whether they're high or low, or we think they're high but they're not really, when we make statements like "I could never charge that much," that could either be judging somebody else who is charging the same amount or charging more, or a belief that you're not good enough that you could never charge that much. It all comes down to the intention behind that statement. And in our comparisons, people like me don't do that. So whether that's, people like me don't do that, or, people like me, we just can't do that. These type of, this type of language pattern, this type of tonality, this type of scenario, these are our limiting beliefs literally at play out loud. A lot of the things that I do with the NLP training that I do is talking about the narrative, the stories that we tell ourselves. And these are the narratives that we are saying of why things haven't worked in the past. Just because it hasn't worked in the past doesn't mean it's going to be the same moving forward. This comes down to where your beliefs become limiting because they stop you from moving forward. And then when we talk about beliefs in your body, it's those things where something's happening and you can feel that tightness or that anxiousness, or you can feel yourself defending and running away before certain things happen. This is all your body telling you that something's not right, that something is playing out. This is where we can find our beliefs. If we're brave enough to face them, this is where true transformation can occur. So for existence, we can have beliefs as, I'm bad at sales, or one for me is, I'm not good with numbers. But the core at it is actually, I'm not worthy of success. We want to always dig deeper, getting under and under and under to work out what our truth actually is. Finding that core belief, only then can we get to the root cause, only then can we change the trajectory of where it's going. So, how do we begin dismantling them? Well, we name it. We want to write it out explicitly. This is where we want to absolutely be able to name exactly what it is. We want to question it. Is this true? Is this always? What's the counter evidence? We're looking at, and one of the biggest questions I get my clients to have a look at is it actually true? What evidence do we have? And then what evidence do we have against that belief? We want to find the origin. When did you decide this? How old were you? These are sort of like meta model in modern language framework in NLP. We want to actually work out, when did we decide that that was our belief? When did we decide to wear it? When did we decide to take that on? And then we want to learn how to reframe it. So we don't replace it, but we bridge the gap between the belief that we can't to the belief that we can. And so the name it, question it, find the origin, reframe it, that is what we're doing here. This is how we begin to truly dismantle these false narratives of ourselves that we've been living and surviving through. So when we bridge these beliefs, we're not just jumping straight to affirmations, like trying to say, I'm amazing, I am worthy, all of these things, and then never truly actually embodying or believing it. We want to know that root cause. For instance, say, I'm not capable. And that usually gets down to I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not loved. And then we want to look at how to open that with a bridge belief. For instance, I am open to the possibility that I am capable. So we're not going straight from I am not capable to the affirmation of I am capable. The bridge is that I'm open to that possibility, that maybe I could be capable. That small shift in language actually creates big shifts in our identity because our nervous systems can usually handle these small steps, not these big changes that they're talking about. So this takes practice. So awareness is the first and most important step. Until we become aware of it, we can't change it. We don't need to fix everything all at once. Just noticing that the belief exists already begins to take the power away from it. It already begins changing it. And change requires movement. So it is a practice and it is an over time scenario. So the one action that I want you to take is before you go to sleep tonight, whenever you've watched this, is I want you to write down your single most limiting belief. Just name it, and that's enough for now. Just work out what is your single most limiting belief. The first thing that comes is usually the place to start because your unconscious mind is only going to bring things to your conscious awareness that you are ready to face, ready to change, and ready to shift. And so once you have that one, sit with it, look at finding the bridge for it. And if you need to, go through this recording and stop and start and have a look at those different exercises that I've given you that you can work through. Because that makes the difference, is when you actually do the work. It's called doing the work for a reason. We have to work for it. And so the key takeaways, limiting beliefs feel like facts. They are not facts. They hide in our language, in the things that we resist and reject, and in the things that trigger us. And awareness is where the transformation begins. It's not something that you can affirmate your way out of try to read positive cards and hope that it changes for the best. This is the shadow work. It's becoming aware of what's laying in the dark for us, because that is what's holding us back. So when you face those, they're the things that change our identity and change who we become. So if you've got any questions after reading this, please send me a DM, please send me an email, and I look forward to hearing how this session has started changing your life. Let me know what your key limiting beliefs have been.